Les Miley, L-E-S-M-I-L-E-Y. I'm a professor of art emeritus at the University of Evansville.
Okay. And talk to me a little bit about your association with Olmsted Hall. You had an office in there, right?
I did not have an office. As a matter of fact, the first year I taught here, I did not have an office. There was a desk in one of the studio classrooms in the Quonset huts, which were where the Powell Hall lawn is now, and it faced the Hale Hall, and it was an H-shaped Quonset huts. With the would be the north side was the art department. The center of that that center section became the theater. Sam Smiley created a little bit of a theater in there. On the south side housed the chapel, and also the ROTC offices, and so my desk was in that building. Had no filing cabinet, so you carried things around with you, but we were waiting for the Krannert Hall of Fine Arts to be built. So that was one of the things that we were looking forward to. And yes, I did have an office in that building, but what they had forgotten to do was to create an office on the top floor for the art faculty. So they divided up the men's restroom, and which was adjacent to the women's restroom. So for any of our needs, we had to go down one level and share that with the music department.
Talk to me a little bit about Olmsted and kind of the history of that building.
Well, the Ralph Olmsted would probably be better to answer the question about its construction, but when I came here, there were on the first floor, on the west end, on the right-hand side was President Hyde's office, and then next to him would be Ralph Olmsted's office. And there was a part of I think a business office that would be on the south side, on this side of the building, and then the bookstore was located there. And on beyond the bookstore, I'm not quite sure about a couple things, but I do know that Dr. McCowan, the dean of the college's office, was there. Across the hall was the dean of students, or the person in charge of that. Admissions was on the office on the other end. So a lot of activity went through there. The center section was the entryway into the auditorium, and that's where the gatherings, student gatherings, plays, those things that occurred in there. As a matter of fact, the first time that I saw a production or the preview of a production, John David Lutz was one of the performers in that. So he is quite knowledgeable about the growth and the development of the theater at the University of Evansville.
Yeah, he's been here for a while.
And on the second floor, where the president's office is located today, would have been the office for the evening college and summer school programs, which was really quite large when I came here. It was a very, because Evansville College was serving the educational needs of Southwest Indiana. There were no junior colleges in Illinois or Kentucky, and no Indiana University at Southeast. So it drew a lot of we taught a lot of night classes, and I remember people driving 60, 80 miles for a night class to get here from Kentucky. I always had a contingent from Madisonville, Kentucky, El Dorado, Illinois, those places, Jasper, Lagodi, Washington, a lot of people coming in for those night classes. There were people who were working for towards degrees, there were seemed like there were a lot of young women. They're young today, at least. They had children and they were in elementary school and they were returning to finish their degrees. A lot of ex-military were in those classes as well, and they were challenging and they were fun, because I think a lot of the times in the night classes, those people were there for information, and they weren't. Well, I think I'll go to college and figure out what I'm going to do. But we had very good students at the undergraduate level. A lot of immediate area students from the locally and in Southwest Indiana and from Illinois and part of Kentucky. Some very good students. We always had a contingent of international students. I've always had international students in class from the first quarter that I arrived here. So I think that that tradition still holds true, I think.
You mentioned Ralph Olmsted.
Yes.
Can you tell me about Ralph and why he's important to the university and why the building's named for him?
Well, he was Ralph Olmsted was a graduate of the university. Matter of fact, I think he was in the first graduating class, and he was an astute businessman. I don't know what his title was, but he was basically in charge of the finances, oversaw the building, the grounds. He was one of Dr. Hyde's. I would say he was his right-hand man in terms of operating the university. And Dr. Rowland was primarily the vice president in charge of a lot in fundraising and those external things that were related to the university. And Dr. McCowan was charged, I think, with the educational aspect of the university. And the coming from both an undergraduate and graduate degrees, I found that, especially in the day, there was a difference in being at a private institution as opposed to a public institution. There seemed to be a difference. And from the outset, what I noticed among faculty was the tremendous pride that they had in their former students, and the gathering of former students that came back and visited with them. So I think that was a tradition that was established when I arrived, and I think that's probably true today, or it was at least when I retired.
Can you talk about Ralph's, just the amount of time he spent at the university? And I mean, I know he loved this place.
Well, he was a man that kept the place in a good financial order. But he was also an innovator. One of the innovations was that he had the sidewalks set lower than the grass level, so that when they mowed, they didn't have to bump over the sidewalk. The problem is when it had heavy rains, then all the sidewalks were flooded. My illustration was that I was serving as acting chair of the department the third year I was here, and Helen Thompson, who's a wonderful colleague, came and said the kilns needed to be fixed or she couldn't teach. So I called American Art Clay Company, got that fixed. Then she wanted a gas kiln installed that had been promised but wasn't there. I went to Mr. Olmsted and he said he'd never had a request. I said, I'm requesting. He said, put it in writing. I had to do a lot of research and put it in writing, but we got that glass kiln installed in the top floor of the Olmsted Hall in the art department. And it was that event that began to change my direction, change my life. And the reason being because I was working with these people and knew about kilns. Helen wanted me to teach a clay class that she taught, and she wanted to teach my drawing class. So we exchanged that. And as a result, Jane Owen came from New Harmony and wanted to establish a pottery program. And and Marvin Harding was enthusiastic. So that's how we had a pottery ceramic summer workshop for almost 45 years in New Harmony, Indiana.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what the university and this building mean? First of all, how much do people identify Olmsted when they think of UB?
Well, I think that first and foremost, that when you think of this, you think of that building, which is essentially titled to a collegiate Gothic, a Gothic style, the rise of certainly of intellectual matters in the 12th, 13th, 14th century. The churches, the architecture of the buildings, and it's Indiana limestone, and it has an imposing facade because as you approach this, the grounds that lead to it, I think that's the heart of this university. No matter what other buildings are constructed or added and to it, and I think that's where graduates of this university assemble, or this is what they see as home base, because it doesn't change. The interior changes, but the exterior remains the same, and it's that stability, that sense of permanent location that I think is important to most graduates of this university.
Last question that I think I have. Can you talk about the importance of the university to the Evansville community? How has it affected Evansville by having the university here?
Well, I have been able to see the change of where, in many ways, with the evening school, we're trying to be all things to all people. And as a matter of fact, for a number of years, we continued to do that, even with Dr. Graves' arrival. And I think that one of the things is that his interest in externalizing just beyond the campus. And so we were fortunate to be able to have Harlexton, and that is a great addition to this university. So I would say that Dr. Vinson and his tenure, the positive thing I think is that he said you cannot be all things to all people. We can't continue to do. We have other kinds of services available that we can't hold on to, and the growth of Ivy Tech and ISUE, and then later it's USI, the junior colleges in Illinois and in Kentucky, and the Extension Center. One of our places of recruitment for when I first came here, and for many years, was in southeastern Indiana, around Corydon, the Louisville area. A lot of students came from that. Well, with IU Southeast, the numbers diminished there. We still get good students from there, but that diminished quite a bit. The thing that I think is still pretty important is that it is the University of Evansville. It bears the name. It represents the town. It represents the community. And I think that there is a lot of community service programs, especially with through the students and student organizations. A lot of that goes unnoticed or is not publicized. But I think that this university's students and faculty contribute greatly in service to the community itself, as well as reaching out with its global perspective. And I think that that's one of the benefits of being private, is that they can do those. That doesn't mean that other organizations can't do that, but I'm familiar with people that are working, faculty members that maybe devote a lot of time to Patchwork Central, or this organization or that. And a lot of people do not know the tremendous number of services that Jim Cruz performed with his teams during his pretty long tenure here. And I think that there just one instance, a young man fell, was paralyzed, he was in the hospital. Jim had either visited or one of the players visited him every day that he was in the hospital. And it was over a year later, I think, that when he was able to walk, and I think that he was, if I remember right, he stood on the floor at Roberts Stadium and thanked the team. And I know that things like that went on all the time, as well as the reading programs, and almost every department does some kind of activity within the community.
Okay. That's all I have.